Hello everybody, welcome back to another collection of mini reviews. For those who haven't seen the previous, these videos are a compilation of previously uploaded mini reviews from my second channel, A Secondary Ghost. YouTube's algorithm is extremely punishing to channels who suddenly upload super short videos after a series of longer ones. So to keep the gods of creativity from stabbing me in the back, I post the individual mini reviews on my second channel and then compile these into a longer video for the main channel, with an extra new video or two thrown into the mix so that people still get to see something new from me if they've already seen the previous uploads. And so, to kick this compilation off, we're going to be taking a very brief look at I Am Bread. A game about bread.
Oh no, I'm being eaten by the ants.
Oh no.
No, I don't want to be eaten by ants. What the fuck is happening? Let me go.
Originally released in April of 2015 via the indie developer Bossa Studios, the minds behind Surgeon Simulator and I Am Fish, I Am Bread is a dumb fun puzzle game with the concept of being simple to explain, yet executing it kind of feels like you're pulling out your own teeth in the best way possible. You are bread, and your mission is to become toast. Except the controls have far more in common with the likes of Bennett Foddy's Quap Runner, which should tell you everything you need to know about how quote-unquote easy it is to get toasted in this game. That's not a reference to something else, I promise, although this game will certainly make you wish that you were. Everything about I Am Bread is designed to simultaneously make you laugh and also make you want to cry in sheer exasperation at how ludicrously irritating its controls are. You slowly drag yourself along, getting more and more familiar with the controls, and then you fuck up and fall to your untoastly demise, or maybe you get eaten by ants or get too dirty, I don't know, and then you have to start all over again. But this game doesn't just stop there, that's just the regular game mode. If you don't want to play the story, the game also offers 5 other game modes, from Rampage to Cheese Hunt to Zero G and more. And every one of these is as dumb as the last. I recently streamed the game for some friends, and even in spite of the fact that the game's difficulty made me want to break several of my own fingers by the end of the session, I still spent most of that time laughing. And that's really the best compliment I can give it. It makes me laugh. I have fun with this stupid game. And if it looks like the sort of thing that might put a smile on your face, I recommend I Am Bread. Hello everybody, welcome back to another mini review. Today we're going to be taking a very brief look at Shadow of Normoth, a game originally released in September of 2021 in the vein of your Haunted PS1 throwback horror games. And honestly, it's quite a bit of fun of just straight up nostalgic entertainment.
I don't know what the owners of this lighthouse were doing with so much fucking shotgun ammo, but I'll take it.
As you've probably noticed by now, this game is nothing more than a full-blown nostalgic throwback to your Resident Evils and Silent Hill of the PS1 era, with a healthy sprinkling of Lovecraft just to round things off too. You take control of a chap who wakes up on an island with something spooky afoot, and so you naturally go exploring and eventually stumble across something spooky. And the game basically just follows that through line to the end. It's straightforward and to the point, and at barely an hour's runtime, it hardly overstays its welcome. The atmosphere is downright gorgeous at times, the clunky tank controls and equally clunky combat are about as OG survival horror as it comes, and also elicits the exact same love-hate relationship that it did 30 years ago. The design of the game is, again, just a full-blown PS1 survival horror fest with insidious beasties and the occasional boss fight scattered throughout it. And this short but sweet horror game is completely free. You can pick up Shadow of Normoth over at itch.io, and if you're a fan of the genre, I recommend giving it a go. I'm a shameless sucker for the haunted PS1 stuff, so if you're like me, you might get a kick out of it. Hello everyone, welcome back to another mini review. Today we're going to be taking a very brief look at Babbdi, a strange game that heavily focuses on exploration. And it's pretty weird. The game sets you off with a simple task. You need to purchase a train ticket and leave the urban hell city of Babbdi. And from that point onwards, how you proceed is honestly up to you. So long as you acquire the train ticket and leave the city, the player's journey from point A to point B is completely unique to them. You might spend your time platforming, zooming around on a motorbike, finding secret objects, playing music, exploring the dark underbelly of the city, or using a leaf blower to literally fly around the city. So yeah, not your average Joe of a platformer. The game's absence of any fall damage or any real consequences to your actions makes for an experience that puts you in more of an observatory seat, rather than as a character with any true agency. You can't really change anything about the world around you save for picking up objects and interacting with characters, so you just end up pottering around the concrete jungle that is this city, finding things hidden within the brutalist architecture, which don't always make sense, while finding others which might be a tad morbid or eerie. Truth be told, Babbdi certainly isn't going to be for everyone. There's an overbearing feeling of melancholic unpleasantness that will definitely turn away a lot of people. But if you're in the mood for something unusual, I really recommend giving Babbdi a go. And seeing as the game is completely free, why not? That's all I'm going to say, because the more I tell you, the more spoiled this experience becomes, and you really want to go in as blind as you can to get the full weight of what this experience might give you. Just go play this game and see what you make of it. Hello everyone, welcome back to another mini review. Today we're going to be taking a very brief look at Cave Crawler, a game originally released in April of 2023 via the indie developer Technomancy Studios. And it's okay. So the concept of Cave Crawler is pretty simple. You operate a small cave drone with the objective of finding the missing bodies of those who are lost to a mysterious cave system. And on its own, that's a pretty cool idea. I love the premise of this game. It fits in with some of my own phobias, as personally, I would rather never set foot in a cave system for as long as I live. And the atmosphere of the game can also be eerily claustrophobic at times. The retro 90s aesthetic of the game also scratches that haunted PS1 itch that I keep banging on about that I'm sure all of you are sick of me mentioning. I can't say I have any complaints there, but the main issue I do have with the game is a very simple one. It's kind of boring. At first, the game is really intriguing. You slowly roll around, examining pieces of equipment and eventually find some bodies, and you'll occasionally see glimpses of something spooky, but the problem is the game does very little with an idea that should be a lot more interesting than it actually is. When I tell you that all you literally do in the game is roll around and identify bodies, I'm not lying, and that concept gets pretty mundane after the first level or two. I actually think ROV succeeded a hell of a lot more with a similar idea. The complex controls of the RV were a constantly engaging mechanic that easily kept your attention for the 15 or so minutes spent playing that game, whereas Cave Crawler's mechanics, over a period of maybe 30 to 45 minutes, just aren't all that interesting. You roll around, scan some things, see something spooky, and that's it, over and over again for 3 or 4 levels. It isn't nearly as effective as I was hoping it would be, although I am saying this about a game that sells for less than £2, so I can't exactly expect the world from it. To its credit, Cave Crawler was clearly meant to be nothing more than a short experimental idea, made for fun more than anything else. And don't get me wrong, I didn't dislike my time with it. I still played through the game and I had a relatively okay time with it. I just wish it had gone a bit further with the idea. Who knows, maybe you'll like this way more than I did, but for me Cave Crawler just isn't the horror experience I wanted it to be. Hello everyone, welcome back to another mini review. Today we're going to be taking a brief look at The Chameleon, a game originally released in July of 2021 via the indie publisher Molino Games, which also easily stands as one of my favourite gaming experiences of the entire year. Utilising an immediately recognisable PlayStation 2 aesthetic, The Chameleon places you in the shoes of an escaped test subject, who wants nothing more than to leave the base that he's been cooped up in, while a bunch of angry robots attempt to stop you. The player character just so happens to have the useful ability of being able to shapeshift, masking their appearance for a short period of time, so the whole letting the test subject get out of the base thing really isn't something that the robots are too keen on. And they aren't messing around either. So your objective is simple: avoid the robots and escape the base. You spend a lot of the early game stealthing around, temporarily adopting the appearance of the robots in order to slip past them, while figuring out how to open up sections of the base currently under lockdown, and it's just a straight up simple as hell blast of nostalgic PS2 fun. The game barely lasts 2 to 3 hours, depending on how long it takes you to figure out the solutions to its fairly minimal puzzles, but I had an absolute blast with this game. The further into the Chameleon you get, the more abilities you begin to unlock, and with each new ability, the more aggressive your gameplay style can become. The dynamic between you and the robots changes, gradually shifting from you being borderline helpless prey to them becoming a more predatorial nature. It's fun, I love this game. Go play the Chameleon. For barely £3.50 or $5, you really can't go wrong with what this game offers you. Hello everybody, welcome back to another mini review. Today we're going to be taking a brief look at Choo, Charles, a game about a killer spider train, which is now probably more of a meme than anything else at this point. And it's fine, I guess. Originally released in December of 2022 via the solo indie dev 2-Star Games, while I'm not going to spend this entire video raving about the game, let me first state that for a solo project, Choo, Charles is still pretty impressive overall. Visually, the day-to-day aspects of the game hold up nicely. The gameplay is relatively fleshed out for an experience that generally lasts no more than 2 to 3 hours, complete with a map that rewards exploration and also offers collectible upgrades. The idea of forcing the player to primarily rely on a train to get around is also surprisingly entertaining, and overall it feels nicely executed. As for the map itself, the atmosphere can be decently presented at times, with the game taking place on a small, spooky island, and as an idea, Charles himself is fun. He's a killer spider train that takes full advantage of the fact that a children's show about sentient steam trains could actually be pretty fucking traumatizing when it wanted to be. So, Choo, Charles has all of the necessary ingredients to be a somewhat tense, but mostly fun, schlocky horror game that clearly isn't going to be taking itself too seriously. But it's a bit of a mixed bag, honestly. While the game's overall runtime is entertaining enough, and I stand by all of my previous compliments, it's hard to deny that it often feels somewhat underbaked at times. I like Charles as an idea, and fighting him can be legitimately difficult at times, but he often feels like something of a one-trick pony. He just shows up and does his thing, and then he runs off again before soon coming back to do essentially the same thing as before. If you're on foot, you either hide or die, and if you're driving the train, you either run, fight, or die. Charles himself doesn't really do anything different until the final confrontation, minor spoilers, so after a handful of encounters with him, you'll be all too familiar with his habits, and it does soon grow pretty tiresome to hear that distant horn and the scary music kicks in. But then this also leads into the second issue. Charles himself isn't all that scary, to be honest. He's menacing, and I like his design well enough, but he's not exactly what you could call frightening. He's kind of scary in the same way that the monsters from Five Nights at Freddy's are trying to be scary. They're just a big over-the-top CG-rendered monstrosity that makes for a pretty good reaction video thumbnail, but ultimately falters at the moment of actually trying to be scary. He's fun, yes, there's no denying that. But the more familiar you become with him, the more annoying he becomes. After the first hour or two, once you've run into him a number of times, you'll be pretty keen just to get to the end of the game. The open world feels a bit same old the more you ferry around it too. The static, lifeless NPC characters are little more than planks of wood that just so happen to also speak. Although their faces aren't animated with any speaking animation, so they just stare eerily into your eyes as if waiting for the right moment to steal your soul. And again, the encounters with Charles, they aren't nearly as much fun after a couple of hours. It wears its welcome out pretty quickly. And so while I can't say I was bored with it, if the game had been an extra hour longer in duration, I probably would have been. So yeah, Choo, Charles is fine. At $16.75 or $20, it's maybe a little bit overpriced, but I also admire the solo developer enough for the work that was put into this, so I guess that's maybe just my own opinion. That's all I have to say. I will see you next time.
You